Siddhant, what are the Israelis saying? Because clearly the mood in Israel seemed to be that Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to continue with this war for an indefinite period of time, and that until the hostages came back, there was no way that he could end this war. What has changed in the last few days? How did Trump finally get him to agree to a peace plan? And now even Hamas has said that it will release the hostages, something that it was not willing to do up until now.
Well, Zaka, there was a lot of pressure on President Trump from the international community, especially given the countries like UK, Canada, Australia, recognizing Palestine as a country perhaps was a big setback for both United States and Israel. In fact, everybody was looking for some kind of a deal, some kind of a peace proposal from a very long time. Because if you remember, Zaka, the ceasefire in West Asia was announced 2 days ahead of President Trump's inauguration. But despite that, Israeli forces continued bombing Gaza. There was no, as such, actual ceasefire on ground. So there was a lot of pressure on the governments in the West, in Europe, in United States, protests, etc., etc. So everybody was looking for a peace proposal. Now, I would like to highlight some of the key points, perhaps, which has worked in favor of Hamas. Why Hamas has accepted this peace proposal? As you rightly said, they never had any other option. But having said that, the terms and the conditions which have been, explained in the Trump's peace proposal, perhaps says that the Hamas leaders will get the amnesty. At the same time, it also talks about the Palestinians to be the part of the council which will be running the interim governance in Gaza, immediate ceasefire. So these are some of the terms and conditions which Hamas, which has worked in favor of Hamas, and this is the reason that they have agreed. But they are still asking for some changes in terms and conditions. Now, what are those changes, Zaka? Change number one could be the removal of Tony Blair's name, because Hamas is not liking Tony Blair's appointment in the board. Hamas is also not ready to accept the Board of Peace proposal, which will be chaired by President Trump, because Hamas has to say that only Palestinian can rule Palestine. Perhaps that's the pitch which is coming from Hamas leadership. In fact, they have spoken to Al Jazeera, and they said that they refuse the Board of Peace proposal, etc., etc. So still a lot of work needs to be done. But as I said, that there was a lot of pressure, Zaka, on the Western governments from a very long time. As I said, in January, ceasefire was announced. Perhaps nothing actually happened on ground. Israeli forces kept bombarding Gaza. And so now, since President Trump has announced 20 points peace plan, he gave ultimatum to Hamas, and that was kind of a deadline which he gave, and now Hamas has agreed to this proposal. So it's a welcoming move in West Asia. Perhaps it would also be interesting to see whether Israel is going to stop bombing Gaza after this announcement by Hamas. So that would really be interesting to see here onwards.
I also want to go across to Akanksha. So there have been a number of hostages who've been released in the past as well. I think over 100 have been released. Some of them were alive. Some of them, their bodies were given back to their families. But the remaining hostages, and Israel believes there are about 20 odd who are alive, another 20 plus odd who may be dead, whose bodies are still in Hamas custody. This is a significant first step, Akanksha, for Hamas to agree that they will release the hostages, because they were loath to doing this, thinking that if they release the hostages, then they have no leverage left. Walk us through what has brought Hamas around, and also what Siddhant was saying, that this is just the first step. There are still sort of devils in the detail, as you were. Stuff like Tony Blair should not find a place in the Board of Peace, and that it should be headed by Palestinian technocrats, etc. There is still a long way before the finalities of this peace agreement actually play themselves out on the ground. So to walk us through what other possible impediments there could be as well. And this is just from the Palestinian and Hamas side. Israel too could continue to extend its bombing campaign inside Gaza, which could also be a further impediment to this peace process.
Right, Zaka. As you said, that the devil lies in the details. And this is the case right now. There are believed to be 48 hostages still being held in the Palestinian territory by Hamas, only 20 of whom are, in fact, believed to be alive. But as much as there was pressure on Hamas, there's also been equal pressure on Israel. Perhaps the biggest blunder for Netanyahu was that attack on Qatar, which is why that rarest of the rare apology came from the Israeli Prime Minister when he was asked by Donald Trump at the behest of the US President during the Israel summit, which took place at the White House. The US President facilitated that call because they knew that Qatar was playing that very significant role, and if they lost out on that mediator, this peace deal would not have gone forward. And even in the statement that's come from the US President, he's gone on to thank the Arab nations. He's been maintaining that consistent diplomatic approach with the Arab nations, many of whom were in fact hosted by the US President on the sidelines of the UNGA as well. That included Saudi Arabia, that included Turkey, that included Egypt, and Qatar, of course. So the Arab nations have played a very significant role. Having said that, it is the ties between the US President and these Arab nations also which have exercised great leverage over Israel as well. So if there has been pressure on Hamas, there's been equal pressure which has been exercised by the US President on the Israeli Prime Minister. And perhaps you've also had that interaction with the Israeli ambassador to India, Ambassador Reuven Azar. Israel so far has been making it amply evident that they are very willing to go ahead with the peace plan. But to talk about the pressure that's been exercised on Hamas, the 20-point peace plan, as you rightly said, has certain nitty-gritties to be worked out. As Siddhant was also highlighting that it is the board, the appointment of the board, which will become a bone of contention. They want the removal of the name of Tony Blair. How will the Palestinian statehood be ensured? Will Palestinians be allowed to govern Gaza completely? Because so far the 20-point peace plan only indicates that Israel will still be present in parts of Gaza. Hamas is very much of the point of view that they want Israeli presence completely out of Gaza. Will Donald Trump be willing to take a step forward with regards to pacifying the Hamas and their own needs? That's something we'll have to wait and watch. But the starting point right now, as far as the negotiations are concerned, the biggest leverage, as you rightly highlighted, were these hostages. That bargaining chip is something Hamas is now willing to barter. But this barter, how much will it cost them? We'll have to see. But it's a great starting point as far as the peace deal is concerned. But Donald Trump had also sort of designed this entire peace plan, which many foreign policy analysts were saying was heavily tilted in favor of Israel. Because if Hamas would not have agreed, many have also highlighted how this could have given Israel a complete free hand and a free reign, which also means that they would have then gone ahead and completely bulldozed Gaza had Hamas not agreed. So this is also coming from a point or from a place of power as far as the US President is concerned, even Israel. I still personally believe that Israel still has an upper hand in the negotiations. But Palestinian statehood, as we've already seen, we are just fresh out of the UNGA, has been raised over there as well. As much as we may want to say that the UN is losing its relevance, it still managed to galvanize a lot of voices from the West itself, especially the EU, which strongly believes in and is in favor of Palestinian statehood. So we'll have to see how much is Israel willing to give in terms of war concessions. For now, I think the good starting point is, of course, the release of the hostages. Many of them are, of course, already dead.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. One of the conditions, of course, is also that Hamas gives up any position of power in a future Gaza. They've not said anything on that. The Hamas statement does not mention specifically anything about their role or the lack of it. in a future governance arrangement in Gaza, and secondly also about de-weaponizing and de-arming Hamas. Again, the Hamas statement is extremely quiet on that. Just in the last hour or so, we've also got a statement released by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office saying that they're getting ready to implement the first stage of President Trump's plan for the immediate release of all the hostages. So within the next few days, and like I said, next Tuesday would mark the second year anniversary of the Hamas terrorist attack, and then subsequently after which Israel began this military campaign against Hamas, in which 65,000 Palestinian lives have been lost, many of them women and children. We could be moving in a direction of that war finally coming to a closure. At least that's the hope. Everywhere in the world, including here in India, the Prime Minister has just tweeted saying that he welcomes President Trump's efforts and the fact that Hamas has agreed to the first step, which is to release the hostages. With that, I'll toss it back to you, and we can also listen in to what President Trump said from the Oval Office, welcoming the decision by Hamas